Astronomers have long grown accustomed to patience, months spent chasing faint smudges through telescopes, years when not a single noteworthy comet graces our skies. Most of the time, comets appear as quiet whispers of the cosmos, heard only by specialists with the instruments and patience to catch them. But the year 2025 refuses to follow this script. Instead, it has delivered a spectacle so unusual, so statistically improbable, that astronomers are struggling to explain it without resorting to metaphors of orchestration or design. At this very moment, 7 comets, each with their own ancient journey, each shaped by gravitational whispers in the dark, are converging toward the Sunday. Their arrivals are not spread out across decades, as the randomness of celestial mechanics might suggest, but compressed into mere weeks and months, forming what some have already called a cosmic parade. In scientific terms, this clustering is referred to as a swarm effect, a rare overlap in visibility that makes random chaos look like choreography. Consider how extraordinary this is. In a typical year, if we're fortunate, we might witness one comet that's worth setting an alarm clock for a faint streak that patient eyes might spot under the darkest of skies. Many years pass with nothing visible at all. Yet, in 2025, the sky offers seven distinct travelers, each born from ice and dust in the farthest reaches of our solar system, all arriving together, as if answering a summons. The names themselves read like a guest list from different corners of the cosmos: Pan-STARRS, Swan, Stereo, Atlas K1, Atlas G3, Lemon, and Neat. Each has been catalogued, tracked, and announced by separate teams of observers across the globe. And yet, from Earth, they now appear as though they are participants in a single celestial drama. To visualize this, imagine raindrops scattered across a window pane over the course of a storm, random, unconnected, solitary. That is the usual distribution of comet arrivals through time. But now picture those raindrops suddenly converging into a cluster, overlapping in a single streak. That is 2025, an astronomical outlier, impossible to ignore. Astronomers, cautious by nature, know the math. Coincidences happen, but human instinct, sharpened over millennia to detect patterns, whispers otherwise. 7 cosmic visitors arriving almost simultaneously? It feels like a riddle. Imagine if 7 friends, each from a different city, appeared unannounced on your doorstep the same weekend. Possible, yes. Innocent coincidence? Maybe. But part of you would wonder, who sent the invitations? For astronomers, the evidence is not just in numbers on paper but in images. Photography forums already swarm with pictures of multiple tails stretched across the same patch of night. Amateur astrophotographers, those quiet devotees who often labor for a single chance shot, now find themselves spoiled, pointing their cameras at a stage crowded with performers. Time-lapse videos reveal streaks arcing like brushstrokes across the stars, their timing so uncanny that even the most skeptical observers pause. And then there is the wild card, the one visitor that does not belong here at all. 3 I divided by Atlas, the third confirmed interstellar object ever detected entering our solar system. Unlike the others, it did not form here, did not belong to our sun's ancient family. It was forged in another star system, perhaps billions of years ago, wandering through the void before finally crossing paths with us. Unlike the 7 icy locals, it will never return. Its orbit is hyperbolic, a one-time passage, a ghostly stranger just passing through. The timing raises a question that lies heavy over the astronomical community. Why now? Why does the most unusual year for cometary arrivals coincide with the appearance of an interstellar visitor? Is this a cosmic accident, or something that hints at a deeper pattern? Scientists, bound by discipline, remind us to tread carefully here. Facts are sacred. Orbits can be charted, magnitudes measured, perihelion calculated with exquisite precision. Speculation must always be flagged as such, lest wonder slide into superstition. And yet, speculation is impossible to resist, because science itself was born from it, from the first human who looked at the night sky and asked not just, "What is that?" but, "Why is it here?" If there is a connection, it must leave fingerprints, orbital alignments, statistical anomalies, or measurable interactions that can be verified again and again. But if no such connection exists, then what we are witnessing is still extraordinary in its own right. The universe, vast and indifferent, serving us a year unlike any other. Here lies the tension at the heart of this story. On one hand, Perhaps this is nothing more than coincidence, the cold mathematics of orbital mechanics playing tricks with human perception. On the other hand, if some unseen influence nudged these comets together, gravity, magnetism, or something still unknown, we stand on the edge of a discovery that could reshape how we understand movement across cosmic distances. The 7 comets are now in motion, their icy bodies igniting under the sun's light. And somewhere beyond them, 3 are divided by Atlas approaches, carrying with it dust and gas older than our own solar system. Whether coincidence or connection, the stage is set for one of the most captivating astronomical seasons in living memory. The swarm has arrived, the stranger is here, and the mystery has only just begun. If the heavens have staged a drama for us in 2025, then this is the moment to meet the cast. 7 comets, each with its own journey, each discovered under different circumstances, yet all converging as though destined for the same celestial stage. To understand the mystery, we must hear their individual stories. Pan-STARRS takes the lead, the brightest of the 7, and perhaps the most charismatic. Born in the frozen outer regions of the solar system, it was discovered by the Panoramic Survey Telescope and Rapid Response System in Hawaii, a system that has revolutionized comet hunting with its sweeping sky patrols. Astronomers predict it may reach naked-eye visibility in the northern hemisphere, a rarity in modern times. But brightness isn't its only intrigue. Its orbital geometry is unusually favorable, as if the comet has chosen to pass where the most people can see it. For scientists, it is chance. For poets, it is temptation. Too convenient, too precise, for mere randomness. Next is Swan, with a story born not of human eyes but of machines. The solar wind anisotropies instrument aboard a spacecraft designed to study solar particles stumbled upon this comet by accident. Swan comets are notorious for announcing themselves through hydrogen emissions, often long before optical telescopes catch a glimpse. Swan, in a sense, revealed its presence by breathing too loudly. Already outgassing long before discovery, it betrayed its own existence in hydrogen light. It is a comet that did not wait for the sun to awaken it. It was already alive. Then comes Stereo, a more dramatic figure. Its discovery arose from spacecraft designed not to hunt comets but to study the sun itself. Through the periphery of their cameras, astronomers spotted this daring wanderer plunging toward the solar inferno. Stereo comets often graze the sun, sometimes perishing in fiery sacrifice, sometimes surviving the encounter, but forever altered. This one arrives during a period of heightened solar activity, solar maximum, when our star's magnetic storms are at their most violent. A coincidence, perhaps, but timing matters in stories, and this one feels deliberate, as if the comet chose its entrance carefully. Atlas K1 carries a different legacy, the burden of disappointment. First hailed as a potential great comet, predictions suggested it might blaze across skies in brilliance unseen for decades. But reality, as so often with comets, proved humbler. Instead of dazzling crowds, Atlas K1 will likely require binoculars or a telescope to appreciate. And yet, its timing places it firmly within the swarm. This is its quiet rebellion joining the chorus, even if its solo never reached the pitch astronomers once promised. Its sibling, Atlas G3, shares the same Hawaiian lineage. The Atlas survey has been remarkably successful at finding comets in recent years, a success that ironically deepens the mystery. Why should so many members of this strange swarm come from the same eyes in the sky? It is no flaw, Atlas is simply good at its job, but patterns emerge nonetheless. Discoverers across history have often been credited with the heavens' treasures. The Chinese court astronomers, the medieval monks, the Renaissance mathematicians. Atlas now joins this lineage, not just as a machine, but as an extension of humanity's eternal gaze. From Arizona comes Lemon, a child of the Catalina Sky Survey perched on Mount Lemon. For decades, Catalina has been a sentinel, cataloging near-Earth objects with unrelenting patience. Lemon is modest compared to Pan-STARRS, faint to all but those who know where to look. Yet, its very placement in the swarm is uncanny. It is neither first nor last. It enters like a background character whose timing, too perfect, gives away its significance. It fills a role, keeping the rhythm of the sequence intact. Finally, there is Neat. Its story is steeped in irony, for the Near-Earth asteroid tracking program ended back in 2007, and yet its legacy endures. Comets, it discovered, still arrive, their paths plotted long ago. NEAT's presence in the swarm is like an old soldier returning to the stage decades after retirement, arriving on cue as though summoned by fate. Its orbit has been tracked for over 15 years, leaving no doubt about its predicted appearance in 2025. NEAT was always destined to come. That it comes now, alongside 6 others, is what unsettles us. Taken together, these 7 wanderers appear less like random guests and more like suspects gathered for questioning, each discovered at different times, by different instruments, in different parts of the sky, yet here they are, crowding into the same narrow window. If this were a trial, the defense would argue coincidence. The prosecution would point to the pattern. Statistically, comet discoveries tend to scatter across years like stars across the night sky, widely, unevenly, sometimes clustered in 2s or 3s, but rarely more. 7, in the same season, is an outlier that begs attention. It feels like the universe laying clues through multiple witnesses, each speaking in a different tongue. Hydrogen glow, solar grazing, dusty tails, silent faintness, and yet somehow delivering the same message. Look closer. The question is whether we are witnessing chance or choreography. Do these 7 comets merely share a stage by accident, or are they performing a play whose script we have yet to decipher? Step into a planetarium on any ordinary year and ask the staff about visible comets. The astronomer on duty will likely sigh, scroll through their database, and point to one faint object so dim you'd need dark skies, patience, and a good telescope to even glimpse it. At best, there might be a binocular comet, an icy traveler just barely within reach of human eyes. Most years pass without a single naked-eye comet to remember. That is the baseline, the silence of the heavens, punctuated only occasionally by a whisper. But 2025, this year is not silence. It is a chorus. 7 notable comets within months of each other, several bright enough for binoculars, at least 1, perhaps 2, reaching naked-eye visibility. To casual stargazers, this will feel like the universe has suddenly flung open its gates. To astronomers, it feels like someone has rewritten the rules of probability. To appreciate how strange this is, we must turn to numbers. Modern sky surveys pan stars in Hawaii, Catalina in Arizona, Neowise in orbit, have transformed astronomy. They scan the heavens with systematic precision, discovering hundreds of comets and asteroids every year. And yet, improved detection doesn't change physics. These surveys can only find what already exists. They don't create comets out of nothing. The orbits that bring comets close enough to shine were set millions of years ago, nudged by ancient gravitational interactions long before humanity had eyes to see them. The statistical expectation is modest. In any given year, 0 to 1 naked-eye comets, perhaps 2 or 3 more visible in binoculars for dedicated amateurs. That is the steady rhythm of cometary arrivals. But 2025 breaks this rhythm with a sudden crescendo, not because our telescopes have grown sharper, but because fate has delivered 7 bright travelers into the same narrow window of time. Imagine flipping a coin thousands of times. Every so often, you'll get a surprising streak 10 heads in a row that makes you pause and wonder if the coin is tricked. Mathematically, such streaks must occur, but the human brain recoils at them. It insists, this cannot be chance. And so it is with our 7 comets. The statistics allow it, but intuition resists. Astronomers have seen smaller clusters before 2, perhaps 3 comets bright in the same season. These moments have always drawn attention, but never suspicion. 7, though, is something else. It is a number that pushes coincidence to its breaking point. A number that whispers of patterns beyond random chance. And then, as if to deepen the unease, 2025 also coincides with solar maximum, the period in the sun's 11-year cycle when its magnetic field grows chaotic, sunspots multiply, and great arcs of plasma erupt into space. Solar maximum doesn't create comets, but it makes them more dramatic. Their tails, thin streamers of dust and ionized gas, are caught and twisted by the solar wind, flung into shapes both haunting and beautiful. Disconnection events, moments when a comet's ion tail is literally severed by solar storms, will likely be common this year. What in another year might be modest visitors will now appear more spectacular than their intrinsic brightness deserves. For the public, this will feel like spectacle piled upon spectacle. Multiple comets blazing at once, their tails shredded and reshaped by solar storms, while auroras flicker across Earth's skies, visible far from the poles. It will feel like the sky is alive, reacting, responding, sending messages. Here psychology enters. Humans are pattern-seeking creatures. Our ancestors survived because they noticed shapes in shadows, sounds in silence, rhythms in the seasons. Missing a real pattern, a predator's movement, a shift in weather, could mean death. And so, we evolved to err on the side of seeing connections, even where none exist. This instinct, once survival, now spills into the stars. When 7 comets arrive in the same season, our pattern-seeking minds leap to explanations. Surely something guided them. Surely they belong together. To dismiss them as coincidence feels almost like betrayal, as though ignoring the whisper of a message written in the heavens. Ancient chroniclers would not have hesitated, they would have read meaning into this immediately. A warning, a blessing, a sign of upheaval. And though modern astronomy insists on caution, the same instinct stirs in us still. Yet here is the paradox. Sometimes coincidence is just coincidence. Flip a coin enough times, and the improbable will happen. Our task, humanity's task, is to separate true signals from the illusions of chance. The bar must be high, for extraordinary claims demand extraordinary evidence. 7 comets do not prove a hidden hand, but neither should they be ignored. The swarm is real, the timing is unusual, the spectacle undeniable. And so the question sharpens, if not coincidence, what unseen influence could bring 7 separate wanderers together at once? Gravity, magnetism, or something we have yet to imagine? The universe does not yield answers easily, but the search has always begun in the same place, with the observation that something is not normal. Whenever astronomers confront patterns that defy easy explanation, their instincts turn to 2 forces, the twin architects of cosmic order, gravity and electromagnetism. These are the invisible hands that shape the movement of worlds, the bending and pulling that keeps the planets in their circuits, the pushing and tearing that stretches comet tails across the sky. If 7 comets seem to be arriving in synchrony, the first question is obvious. Which of these unseen hands, if any, might be guiding them? Gravity, of course, is the oldest storyteller in astronomy. Every mass in the universe bends space-time around it, creating invisible slopes down which smaller bodies must roll. It is gravity that binds the moon to Earth, Earth to the sun, and comets to their long, looping paths. With equations laid down by Newton and refined by Einstein, astronomers can predict these motions centuries in advance. No trickery, no uncertainty. If comets are being shepherded, gravity is the most likely shepherd. But gravity, for all its infinite reach, is also astonishingly weak. A person lifting an apple overcomes the pull of an entire planet. To nudge 7 comets into coordinated arrival would require the presence of something massive, a body with influence on the scale of Jupiter or beyond. Jupiter itself provides the template. Its bulk has carved resonances in the asteroid belt, gathered swarms of Trojans at its flanks, and deflected countless comets into new paths. Jupiter's fingerprints are everywhere, legible in the scars of our solar system. If an unseen giant were playing such a role today, its presence would not be subtle. Orbital calculations would scream its existence. Peculiar bends, shared inclinations, resonant patterns. No such evidence has yet emerged. Each of the 7 comets appears to follow an independent orbit, its parameters explainable by known gravitational interactions over millions of years. The hand of gravity, if it is guiding them, must be hidden at a scale our equations have not yet accounted for. And then there is electromagnetism. Unlike gravity, it is a force of immediacy and violence. As comets approach the sun, their ices vaporize, releasing gases that become ionized by solar radiation. These ions feel the lash of the solar wind, streaming outward at hundreds of kilometers per second, guided by the sun's magnetic field. It is electromagnetism that fashions the ethereal blue tails of comets, often tens of millions of kilometers long, always pointing away from the sunday. Could such forces herd comets themselves, not just their tails? Physics says no. The nucleus of a comet, a solid mountain of ice and rock, is too massive to be significantly shifted by solar magnetism. Electromagnetic fields can twist the banners of their tails, but they cannot redirect the body itself. To imagine otherwise would require magnetic storms of a magnitude unknown outside the death throes of collapsing stars. This is where the trail grows thin. If gravity is too weak without a massive hidden body, and electromagnetism too fickle to move whole comets, then what remains? Astronomers face the uneasy balance between evidence and speculation. The orbits, as measured, show no smoking gun. And yet, the timing unsettles. The clustering feels choreographed. It demands explanation, even as explanations slip away. The precedent of Jupiter remains instructive. For centuries, observers puzzled at the gaps in the asteroid belt until they realized Jupiter's rhythms were sweeping clear those regions. Perhaps, too, some hidden rhythm is at play now, not the pull of a visible giant, but the faint tug of something at the edge of perception, some whisper from the Oort cloud, where trillions of frozen bodies drift in darkness, waiting millennia for the chance to fall sunward. Or perhaps, the speculation grows bolder, an external influence beyond our sun's dominion. What if forces from interstellar space, a passing molecular cloud, a brush with a long-forgotten star sent a wave through the outer reservoir of comets, dislodging them in clusters? These dislodged travelers would fall inward together, centuries later, arriving now as if on cue. If so, then the 7 comets of 2025 are not anomalies but messengers carrying the echo of a disturbance that occurred far beyond human sight or history. To detect such a fingerprint would mean rewriting our understanding of the cosmic neighborhood. It would mean admitting that the solar system is not an island, but a shoreline, its waters stirred by distant tides. And hovering always in the background of this speculation is the interstellar stranger, 3I divided by Atlas. Unlike the 7 locals, its path is hyperbolic, its destiny elsewhere. It was not born of the Sunday, yet its timing feels too perfect, as though it were the conductor rather than a bystander. Astronomers are reluctant to say so. To suggest an interstellar visitor has anything to do with our swarm is to step into dangerous territory, where science shades into myth. But the suspicion lingers. Why now, of all years? The unseen hand, whether gravitational, electromagnetic, or something still unnamed, has not yet revealed itself. For now, we are left with questions, sharpened by the coincidence of 7 comets and an alien wanderer sharing the same celestial stage. In science, questions are not failures, they are beginnings, and so, the hunt for fingerprints continues. When a fire alarm rings, it does not mean the house is already in flames. It means there is smoke, something unusual, something that demands attention. The 7 comets of 2025, plus the interstellar stranger in their midst, are not harbingers of doom. They are a cosmic smoke alarm, a signal that something in our celestial neighborhood is behaving in a way that deserves scrutiny. Let us state the facts clearly. None of these comets threaten Earth. Their closest approaches remain far outside the Moon's orbit, millions of kilometers away. Pan-stars will pass safely at a distance that astronomers measure with precision. Swan and Stereo, spectacular though they may appear, are no more dangerous to Earth than fireworks exploding over a distant horizon. Even 3I divided by Atlas, with its alien origins, is on a hyperbolic path that will fling it back into interstellar space, never to return. This is spectacle, not peril. And yet, the human mind is not built for calm disinterest in the face of spectacle. We are pattern seekers. For our ancestors, survival depended on detecting patterns in the rustle of grass or the flight of birds. A cluster of hoofprints meant prey or predators. A change in the stars could mean a change in the seasons. To ignore patterns was to risk death. And so even today, when we see 7 comets at once, our brains refuse to let the matter rest. Coincidence is the language of statistics, not instinct. Instinct whispers, this means something. That whisper becomes a shout in the age of social media. Already, forums and feeds hum with speculation. Amateur astronomers post images of multiple tails slicing across the same sky, and the comments swell with awe, unease, and conjecture. Videos on TikTok and YouTube weave dramatic music over comet footage, suggesting hidden meanings, ancient prophecies, alien choreography. Algorithms, designed to reward engagement, amplify these theories because fear and wonder travel faster than cautious explanation. This is not new. Every culture has framed comets as signs, sometimes of disaster, sometimes of change. The very word disaster comes from the Latin dis astrum, bad star. Medieval chronicles are filled with panic at cometary arrivals, linking them to wars, plagues, and the fall of kings. Even Halley's comet, scientifically predictable and benign, was cast as an omen during its appearances. a herald of the Norman conquest in 1066, a portent of turmoil in 1910. Science has worked hard to break that chain of fear. We know now that comets are fragile relics of creation, not divine messengers. They are icy time capsules, falling sunside and shedding their ancient skins. But knowledge alone does not extinguish instinct. In times of coincidence, instinct always claws back. 7 comets at once feels like a chorus of voices, not a random crowd. And then there is 3I divided by Atlas, the wild card. Had it arrived in 2023 or 2027, its presence might have been catalogued with curiosity and little more. But in 2025, it cannot be ignored. The narrative almost writes itself. The alien arrives, and the swarm follows. The coincidence is so poetic, so cinematic, that even sober scientists feel the weight of its timing. Here lies the danger, mistaking beauty for intent. Just because an event feels dramatic does not mean it was orchestrated. A sunset can paint the sky with fire without a single spark of malice behind it. Likewise, 7 comets can converge without anyone or anything calling them to assembly. To confuse drama with agency is one of humanity's oldest traps. And yet, we must also be honest. Science is not about dismissing questions simply because they are uncomfortable. It is about holding speculation in one hand and data in the other, and testing until one outweighs the other. If there is a connection, it must be measurable timing, correlations, orbital echoes, physical anomalies. If there is none, then we accept coincidence, but we do not dismiss the wonder of it. The alarm, then, is not for destruction, it is for attention. The universe has given us a year that defies the ordinary rhythms of cometary arrivals. The smoke detector has sounded. Our task is not to panic, but to investigate, to measure, to observe, to separate the signal from the noise, because history teaches us something else. Every great discovery began with someone noticing that something was not quite normal, and refusing to look away. Among the 8 celestial visitors that mark 2025 as extraordinary, one stands apart. Pan stars, Swan, Stereo, Atlas K1, Atlas G3, Lemon, and Neat are kin-born in the frozen hinterlands of our own solar system, fragments of its ancient nursery cast outward and drawn back in by gravity's patient pull. But 3I divided by Atlas is not of this family. It is a stranger, a traveler from beyond. Its very name carries significance. The 3rd interstellar object ever detected, passing through our neighborhood, following in the footsteps of Oumuamua in 2017 and Comet Borisov in 2019. This alone makes it precious. Every other comet we know shares the same ancestral cradle, the proto-solar nebula that spun itself into planets and moons 4.5 billion years ago. Their ices and dust record the chemistry of our sun's birth. But 3I divided by Atlas was forged under another star, in another nursery, shaped by conditions we can only imagine. To study it is to hold a shard of another world, a piece of an alien dawn. Its journey has been almost inconceivably long. Cast loose from its home system, perhaps by the gravitational kick of a giant planet, it has wandered for millions, maybe tens of millions of years through interstellar darkness. During that time, it endured bombardment by cosmic rays, scarred and seasoned by a radiation storm that no solar system body ever faces. When our telescopes detect its spectrum, they are not just measuring ice and dust. They are reading a biography written across eons of exile. What makes 3I divided by Atlas even more unsettling is its behavior. Most objects remain inert until the sun's heat stirs them awake. But this visitor has shown signs of activity even in the cold reaches where ice should remain locked away. Its faint fuzzy coma suggests volatile compounds, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, perhaps even more exotic ices that vaporize at temperatures far below water's freezing point. This hints at a chemistry alien to our solar system, a recipe written under another star's light. There is no collision risk, no apocalyptic trajectory. Its orbit is hyperbolic, a slingshot curve that ensures it will never return once it passes. It is, in essence, a reconnaissance mission without intention, a brief visit, a single crossing of our skies before disappearing forever. And yet, its timing forces questions. Why now, of all years? Why at the exact moment when our solar system is experiencing its most remarkable clustering of native comets in living memory? For scientists, This coincidence is both tantalizing and dangerous. Astronomy, as a discipline, thrives on precision. Distances, angles, magnitudes, these can be measured, tested, repeated. Coincidences, however, breed myths. To leap from coincidence to causation without evidence is to slip back into the thinking of medieval astrologers who saw omens where there were only orbits. And yet, even the most careful astronomer feels the pull of the question, what are the odds? The stakes are immense. If 3I divided by Atlas is truly independent, then we are witnessing an astonishing but natural overlap, a one-time alignment of cosmic schedules, like two trains crossing at the same lonely station by accident. But if there is any connection, if this interstellar visitor's arrival is somehow tied to the swarm of 7, then we are looking at forces beyond our current understanding. A link between interstellar dynamics and local cometary behavior would rewrite our picture of how stellar systems influence one another across light years. And here lies the wonder. Every measurement of 3I divided by Atlas, every spectrum recorded, every image captured, is not just data, it is dialogue. We are speaking, however briefly, with another star system. Its dust is their dust. Its ice is their ice. Its chemistry is a message in a bottle, flung across the galactic sea and washed up on our shores in 2025. Whether coincidence or connection, this stranger deepens the mystery. If the 7 comets are a chorus, then 3I divided by Atlas is the lone outsider who walks on stage at the exact moment the song begins. Was it invited? Did it wander in by accident? Or is the timing itself part of the story? The answers will not come easily. They will be carved from orbital mechanics, from spectroscopic fingerprints, from the patient accumulation of data. But the questions have already been asked, and in astronomy, the asking is the beginning of discovery. The interstellar stranger is here, and its presence changes everything. The path of 3I divided by Atlas is not the endless loop of a returning comet. It is a slash across the sky, a single brushstroke drawn with a steady hand and then gone forever. Unlike the ellipses that bind planets and most comets to the sun, its trajectory is hyperbolic, a curve with no return. It dives into our solar system, swings around the sun, and departs back into the deep, carrying its secrets into eternity. For astronomers, this makes its passage both a gift and a frustration. A gift because we can study it, a frustration because we only get one chance. The orbital elements tell a story written in geometry. 3I divided by Atlas approaches from a direction roughly aligned with the constellation Perseus, though interstellar space offers no road signs to pinpoint its exact origin. Its hyperbolic excess velocity, the speed it maintains even after escaping the sun's pull, reveals that this object has traveled for untold millennia, crossing gulfs of space that dwarf human imagination. Every meter of its path is evidence that it does not belong here. Its angle of approach is what makes astronomers lean closer. 3I divided by Atlas does not plunge vertically into the solar system like a stone into a pond. Instead, it skims near the ecliptic plane, the thin disk in which our planets orbit. This geometry is important. Most interstellar interlopers cut across the ecliptic at steep angles, spending little time near the planetary orbits. But Atlas lingers, its trajectory weaving through the very lanes where our 7 comets are passing. Not a collision, not even a near miss, but close enough to feel uncanny, as if it is walking through the same room at the same moment others have gathered there. Its motion is also retrograde. It approaches against the current, moving opposite to the planets and comets bound in the sun's gravitational rhythm. This creates staggering relative velocities. In cosmic terms, Atlas is not strolling through a marketplace. It is sprinting against the flow of traffic. High relative speed usually means minimal gravitational influence. 2 dancers brushing past each other at a crowded ball may never even touch hands. If Atlas were to affect these comets directly, the odds seem vanishingly small. But then there are the nodes, the points where its trajectory crosses the ecliptic plane. These are the intersections of possibility, the silent checkpoints where its path aligns most closely with the highways of the inner solar system. If there were to be any interaction, gravitational, electromagnetic, or something subtler, it would be most likely here. Astronomers calculate these nodal passages with exquisite precision, marking the dates on calendars, watching to see whether anything unusual stirs in the swarm. This is where things become tricky. Comets are notoriously unpredictable in their behavior. They flare, dim, shed tails, fragment all as natural responses to solar heating. Distinguishing normal variability from an anomaly requires patience and statistics. If multiple comets were to exhibit outbursts or unusual tail events precisely around Atlas's nodal crossings, and if these could not be explained by solar storms or routine physics, then suspicion would harden into evidence. Until then, we remain in the realm of speculation. Still, the geometry provokes. Astronomers cannot help but recall history. In the 19th century, the discovery of Uranus's orbit behaving strangely led to the prediction of Neptune, a planet unseen but mathematically undeniable. Could the odd convergence of 2025 hint at another unseen force, not a planet this time, but some wider-scale rhythm connecting local comets and interstellar passers-by? If history teaches us anything, it is that geometry rarely lies. But the caution remains. Correlation is not causation. The 7 comets could be following paths determined millions of years ago, while 3 I divided by Atlas, by pure accident, passes through at the same time. To leap from geometry to agency without proof is to invite the errors of astrology, not astronomy. And yet astronomers keep watching. The temptation is too strong, the timing too neat. As Atlas moves along its path, every telescope trained on it doubles as a question mark. Is this the foreign visitor, indifferent and alone, or is this the conductor, its baton invisible, guiding the orchestra of the swarm? The orbit is written, the geometry is clear, the interpretation remains ours to wrestle with. For any comet, perihelion is the moment of truth. It is the instant of closest approach to the sun, when months of quiet travel erupt into spectacle. Distant ice becomes vapor, darkness blossoms into light, and an anonymous speck transforms into a blazing apparition visible across the heavens. For 3 I divided by Atlas, this moment carries particular weight. It is not merely another comet making its turn around the Sunday. It is an interstellar emissary, a visitor from another cradle of creation, and perihelion is the furnace where it must reveal its true self. The physics is straightforward, merciless, and dramatic. As Atlas falls sunward, every halving of distance quadruples the solar energy striking its surface. Ices that have slumbered for millions of years begin to boil. Gases stream outward, dragging dust into space, building the glowing coma and sweeping tails that give comets their ethereal forms. Yet this time, the chemistry may not be familiar. Most solar system comets are dominated by water ice. Atlas may instead carry more volatile compounds, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, methane molecules that evaporate at far lower temperatures. If so, its spectrum during perihelion will be unlike anything we've seen before. A chemical fingerprint from another star's nursery. This fingerprint matters. With spectrographs, astronomers can separate the comet's light into rainbows of emission lines, each line corresponding to a molecule released into space. It is as if Atlas has carried a sealed message across the galaxy, and perihelion is the moment when the envelope is finally torn open. What it reveals will not be words, but chemistry recipes for building planets in alien systems. But perihelion is also peril. Comets are fragile, loosely held rubble piles bound by little more than gravity and frozen glue. The heat of the sun can split them apart, as it did with Comet Shoemaker-Levy 9, before Jupiter pulled its fragments into a death spiral in 1994. Fragmentation is not just possible for Atlas, it is likely. Should it shatter, we would gain something precious, access to its untouched interior, fresh material, unscarred by millions of years in interstellar exile. For astronomers, such a break would be an autopsy on a star-born wanderer. For the public, it would be a cosmic drama, a stranger coming undone in the furnace of our star. And then there are the tails. Comets grow 2, sometimes more. A pale dust tail shaped by sunlight's pressure, and a vivid blue ion tail sculpted by the solar wind. For Atlas, these tails will not only mark its presence, but will illustrate the struggle between alien matter and our sun's environment. The ion tail may bend, ripple, or even snap off entirely during solar storms, a phenomenon called a disconnection event. To human eyes, such an event looks uncanny, as if an invisible hand reached out and severed part of the comet's body. In truth, it is the sun's magnetic field, turbulent during solar maximum, tearing through ionized gas. If Atlas behaves differently, if its tails respond in ways unlike any local comet, we know it will be a revelation. Perhaps its particles are finer, more easily swept into vast plumes. Perhaps its chemistry makes its tails glow in strange colors. Each difference is a clue, a line of evidence in the puzzle of its origin. The question that lingers, however, is whether the swarm will echo Atlas's performance. If, as Atlas brightens, one or more of the 7 comets undergoes outbursts, fragmentation, or strange tail behavior, suspicion will deepen. Are they truly independent, or are they somehow resonating together, like bells struck by the same unseen hammer? If such synchronicity occurs without explanation in solar activity, then speculation will grow sharper. Astronomy thrives on vigilance, and for this perihelion, vigilance will be global. Professional observatories will track every fluctuation in brightness, every twist of the tail. Amateur astronomers, thousands of them with backyard telescopes and digital cameras, will contribute a river of images and light curves, a collective watch over this alien visitor. For the first time in history, humanity can observe an interstellar comet's perihelion from nearly every longitude and latitude, stitching together a continuous record of its passage. What will perihelion bring? Glory or collapse? A stubborn traveler that survives its encounter, or a fragile wanderer torn to pieces by the sun's embrace? The only certainty is that something will be revealed, something about its chemistry, its structure, its resilience, something about how the matter of another star system responds to the fire of ours. Perihelion is not just a test for Atlas, it is a test for us. To watch with open eyes, to measure without bias, to resist both panic and fantasy. The stranger is stepping into the spotlight of our sun, and for a brief moment, it will tell us who it is. The sun is not a passive backdrop to our cometary drama. It is the conductor of the entire performance, its magnetic storms and radiant heat shaping every note of the spectacle. And in 2025, the sun is not quiet. It is at solar maximum, the peak of its 11-year cycle, when its magnetic field knots and twists, when sunspots darken its surface, and when colossal arcs of plasma erupt outward into the void. This is the stage upon which the swarm must perform, and the sun's mood guarantees that the performance will be wild. Comets, fragile things that they are, cannot resist this influence. Their tails are banners of submission, whipped by solar wind and magnetic fields. During maximum, the wind strengthens, becomes turbulent, erratic. Coronal mass ejections, vast bubbles of charged plasma, each weighing billions of tons, slam into interplanetary space, distorting everything in their path. When such storms strike comets, their delicate ion tails may buckle, twist, or even snap off completely. Astronomers call this a disconnection event. To the untrained eye, it looks like violence. A comet wounded, its tail sheared away by an unseen sword. These events will happen again and again in 2025. And because there are so many comets visible at once, we will almost certainly see multiple tails reacting together to the same solar storm. To the casual observer, it will look like choreography. 7 dancers moving in synchrony to a rhythm they share. In truth, each is simply responding to the same blast of solar weather. It is coincidence born of physics, not conspiracy. But the illusion will be powerful, and illusions have always swayed human imagination. The sun's storms will not only sculpt comet tails, they will also reach Earth, shaking our planet's magnetic field, producing brilliant auroras that descend far south of their usual haunts. Imagine the sight: curtains of green and crimson light unfurling across North America, Europe, and Asia, while comets blaze overhead, their tails tangled by the very same storms. To those who do not know the physics, the connection will seem obvious. The heavens are restless, and Earth trembles in reply. Yet we must be precise. Comets do not cause auroras, they do not knock out satellites, nor trigger power outages. The sun does all of this. It is the common source, the master influence, stirring both Earth's magnetosphere and the fragile atmospheres of passing comets. To mistake the comets for culprits is to misread the play, confusing actors for the playwright. Still, solar maximum adds undeniable drama to this comet year. Without it, the 7 visitors might still impress, but they would lack the theatricality of storm-torn tails and simultaneous outbursts lit by solar tempests. With it, even modest comets may appear spectacular, their tails glowing electric blue, their dust plumes broadened into sweeping veils across the night sky. Astronomers will see data, but the public will see story, a universe alive with strange intent. This interplay of comets and sun recalls older traditions. Ancient peoples often saw comets as direct expressions of the sun's will, celestial brooms sweeping the heavens clean, or fiery messengers hurled by the gods. They had no concept of magnetic fields or solar wind, but their intuition was not entirely wrong. Comets are indeed shaped, disciplined, and sometimes destroyed by the sun's unseen power. What they interpreted as divine wrath, we now measure as plasma physics. The awe remains the same. For scientists, the challenge is disentangling the sun's influence from any possible mystery. If Atlas and the swarm show synchronized behavior, the first step is always to consult the solar monitors. Did a coronal mass ejection erupt days earlier? Did the solar wind spike? If yes, the explanation is ordinary, however dazzling it may appear. Only if anomalies remain after accounting for the sun can suspicion grow. The swarm and the sun are thus locked together in this dance, each comet a fragile partner, each solar storm a dramatic turn in the choreography. The spectacle is guaranteed, the meaning is not. For now, all we know is that 2025 is not simply a comet year, it is a comet year framed in fire, lit and sculpted by a restless star at its peak of power. When the sun grows restless, its storms do not stop at the edge of space. They come to Earth, hammering against our planet's magnetic shield, shaking the invisible field that protects us from the raw violence of the cosmos. These echoes of solar fury are felt not only in the sky but in the fabric of our modern lives. And in 2025, as the swarm of comets fills the heavens, these echoes will be impossible to ignore. The science is straightforward. A coronal mass ejection, CME, a colossal eruption of plasma, can travel outward from the sun at millions of kilometers per hour. When such a storm collides with Earth's magnetosphere, it compresses and distorts the field, sending torrents of charged particles plunging down into the upper atmosphere. The result is breathtaking: auroras, shimmering curtains of green and crimson, dancing where no auroras usually belong. Cities like Rome, Denver, or Tokyo, far from the Arctic and Antarctic, may look up and see the sky ablaze. But beauty is only one side of the story. Those same storms induce electrical currents in power grids, threatening blackouts. They interfere with GPS satellites, throwing navigation systems into chaos. Airlines reroute flights to avoid radiation exposure at high latitudes. Even pipelines, vast metal veins running across continents, can be flooded with induced currents that hasten their corrosion. In a world more dependent on technology than ever, solar storms are not curiosities, they are risks. The timing, once again, fuels imagination. Imagine the scene. 7 comets blaze in the night sky, their tails shredded by the same solar wind that paints auroras across the horizon. On the ground, meanwhile, cell networks falter, flights are delayed, power grids flicker. To the scientifically untrained, the connection seems obvious. The comets are causing the disruptions. The swarm is not a celestial show, it is a warning, a weapon, an omen. History provides the precedent. In 1859, the Carrington event, the most powerful geomagnetic storm on record, set telegraph offices on fire and electrified wires so strongly that operators could send messages without batteries. At the time, comets were still feared as cosmic troublemakers. A similar storm during a comet year would have been read as no accident, but divine punishment. Today, we know the physics better, but the human instinct for connecting events has not changed. And 2025 is primed for such connections. The comets above, the auroras around, the disruptions below, all threads in a tapestry that feels like more than chance. News headlines will not help. 7 comets blaze, while solar storms knock out satellites, is the kind of narrative too dramatic to resist. Social media will seize on it, weaving stories of cosmic signs, alien interventions, or apocalyptic countdowns. For millions, the science will be drowned out by story. Yet the truth is more elegant, more humbling. The sun alone drives these storms. The comets are spectators, not agents. They too are victims, their tails bent and broken by the same forces that rattle our technology. We and the comets are, in a sense, companions in vulnerability, different worlds, same storms. And so, Earth itself becomes part of the stage. Not as a target of cometary doom, but as a participant in the solar drama. Our satellites, our cities, our power grids, all react as surely as the comet tails do, shifting and flickering under the pressure of invisible winds. For once, humanity shares something with the swarm, a dependence on the sun's moods, and a reminder that even in the age of technology, we remain children of a star. Whenever the skies grow too strange, human imagination leaps beyond science. 7 comets arriving together, their tails writhing under solar storms, while an interstellar stranger slices through the same sky. Such a scene begs for story. And the oldest, most enduring story we tell when confronted with mystery is this: we are not alone. The alien hypothesis is not born from telescopes but from instinct. Coincidences of this magnitude feel choreographed, as though someone, somewhere, must be guiding the stage. To many, 3I divided by Atlas is not a chance visitor, but a messenger, a scout, perhaps even a conductor, whose invisible hand has summoned the cometary swarm. Science warns against such leaps, yet speculation thrives in the spaces where certainty falters. Consider the appeal. If comets have long been omens, then the presence of an interstellar comet, a true alien body, arriving in perfect synchrony, with a rare swarm, almost demands interpretation. Ancient cultures would not have hesitated. This is a sign of gods, spirits, or powers beyond the earth. In our modern world, gods have faded, but aliens have taken their place. What kings once feared as divine punishment, the internet now reframes as extraterrestrial intent. Social media fuels this speculation relentlessly. Videos splice comet images with ominous music, whispering of galactic fleets or celestial beacons. Conspiracy forums latch onto orbital diagrams, arguing that 7 comets aligned with an interstellar intruder cannot be chance. Memes spread faster than data, and within days, the alien hypothesis ceases to be fringe. It becomes part of the conversation, a narrative too dramatic to ignore. History shows this is not unusual. In 1973, the sudden appearance of Comet Kohoutek inspired both scientific excitement and apocalyptic predictions. Some hailed it as the comet of the century, while fringe groups claimed it signaled alien contact. Decades earlier, when Mars loomed bright in the sky, newspapers once stoked fears of Martian invaders. The skies have always been mirrors in which we project our hopes and fears, but is there anything in the data to support the alien hypothesis? Thus far, no. The orbits of the 7 comets show no unnatural perturbations, no shared resonance that screams manipulation. 3I divided by Atlas follows a hyperbolic path, entirely consistent with a random interstellar wanderer. If there is choreography, it leaves no fingerprints in the equations. Astronomy, as it stands, has found nothing but coincidence. And yet, science also admits the unknown. We know comets can be perturbed by distant stars or galactic tides, nudged into clusters by forces we cannot always track. We know interstellar visitors are rare, but not impossible, and that coincidence sometimes wears the mask of intent. What we cannot rule out absolutely, imagination seizes, and imagination, when paired with fear, often points to aliens. The alien hypothesis is seductive because it makes the universe personal. Random chance is cold, indifferent, unsatisfying. But if someone sent the comets, then we matter. Then the swarm is not just physics, it is message. A warning, a greeting, a prelude to contact. That possibility, however slim, electrifies the mind. Astronomers must hold the line here. Without evidence, alien intent remains fantasy, however poetic. But to dismiss the question entirely would also betray science. For science does not fear speculation, it disciplines it. It takes the wildest questions and asks, how could we know? If aliens had nudged comets, what signatures would remain? If 3I divided by Atlas carried technology within it, how would we detect it? These are not foolish questions, they are testable ones. And in the history of science, every revolution began with daring to ask. So the alien hypothesis persists, not as proof, but as possibility. It lurks in the margins of scientific papers. It dominates the headlines of tabloids. It stirs in the imaginations of millions who watch the night sky with unease. And whether true or not, it shapes the story we tell of 2025. The year when comets gathered, and the stars seem to whisper that we are not alone. There is a peculiar gravity in human psychology, one that pulls wonder down into fear. When the sky fills with unfamiliar signs, our minds drift not only toward curiosity, but toward catastrophe. 7 comets arriving at once, tangled tails whipping in solar storms, an interstellar stranger cutting across their stage. It is more than enough to awaken the oldest of human instincts. This must mean the end is near. The doomsday temptation is not new. Comets have long been yoked to prophecy, not for what they are, but for what they represent. Disruption. They appear suddenly, brighten without warning, and then vanish. To ancient eyes, they broke the perfect order of the heavens, the eternal march of stars and planets. Where the sky should have been changeless, a comet intruded, glowing like fire and pointing like a sword. Small wonder that they became symbols of upheaval. The chronicles are heavy with such associations. When Halley's comet blazed in 1066, the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle recorded it as an omen of doom for England. That same year, William the Conqueror crossed the Channel, and the comet's image was embroidered into the Bayeux tapestry flames in the sky above a king's fall. In 1456, another passage of Halley's comet coincided with fears of Ottoman invasion, prompting Pope Calixtus III to order prayers against its influence. In 1910, when Earth passed through the tail of Halley once more, panic erupted. Newspapers claimed the gases could poison the atmosphere, leading to riots and profiteers selling anti-comet pills and bottled air. The pattern is clear. In times of uncertainty, comets amplify anxiety. They become mirrors reflecting human fears: war, plague, political collapse, divine judgment. In truth, the comets caused none of these, but their untimely appearances made them easy scapegoats, convenient symbols for chaos. 2025 provides fertile ground for the same pattern. Our modern world is more connected and more fragile than ever. Supply chains strain, politics fracture, the climate grows unstable. When satellites fail under solar storms, when auroras blaze where none should, when 7 comets line the heavens as if in formation, it will not take much for the doomsday narratives to return. Online, they already stir. Whispers of apocalypse, of 7 seals broken, of prophecies fulfilled. The allure is powerful because catastrophe gives coincidence meaning. If the swarm and Atlas are random, then they are nothing more than physics, indifferent and cold. But if they are omens, then they are about us. They become part of our story, messages to humanity, warnings of an impending reckoning. Doom, for all its terror, at least feels personal. Yet this temptation is dangerous. Fear clouds judgment. It drives crowds to panic, economies to tremble, and trust in science to fracture. In 1910, fear of Halley's tale caused suicides, riots, and mass hysteria. Today, with social media amplifying every rumor, the effect could be magnified 1,000-fold. A bright comet coinciding with a power outage could ignite conspiracies that no explanation will extinguish. Astronomy's task, then, is not only to measure orbits but to hold the line against fear, to remind us that comets are not curses but relics, icy fragments from the dawn of the solar system. Their arrival is not an omen of the end, but a chance to study beginnings. The universe does not write warnings in comet tales, it writes history. But the temptation remains. The human heart, when confronted with too much coincidence, leans toward apocalypse. And in 2025, with the sky so full of visitors, the temptation may prove irresistible to many. If comets have long been omens of doom, then in the modern age they have also become something else: the stage props of invasion stories. In 2025, with 7 comets crowding the heavens and 1 interstellar stranger threading among them, it is almost inevitable that imagination will leap to a new narrative. They are not comets at all, but ships. This invasion fantasy has deep roots. Long before telescopes revealed the true nature of comets, storytellers imagined them as celestial armies. Ancient Chinese texts described broom stars sweeping across the heavens as if clearing a path for conquest. In medieval Europe, comets were sketched like fiery lances or torches carried by divine soldiers. Even in the 20th century, science fiction seized on the image. Arthur C. Clarke, H.G. Wells, and countless pulp writers cast comets as disguises for alien armadas, their icy shells mere camouflage for engines of war. The symbolism is powerful because comets already resemble fleets. They appear together in the sky, their glowing heads moving across the constellations, their tails like streaming banners unfurled behind them. In 2025, photographs showing multiple comets at once will look eerily like squadrons. Atlas, the alien outsider, only adds fuel, the scout ship, the first probe, arriving ahead of the main force. To the human imagination, the plot writes itself. Social media accelerates the fantasy. Videos will splice telescope footage with military soundtracks, overlaying diagrams that make comet orbits look like attack vectors. Posts will declare that 7 objects appearing at once cannot be coincidence, that they are coordinated maneuvers, staging points for a coming assault. Memes will depict comets reimagined as colossal dreadnoughts, their tails transformed into exhaust plumes. The narrative will spread, not because it is likely, but because it is irresistible. But invasion fantasy is not just escapism. It reveals something about us. Comets, in their unpredictability, remind us that we are not in control of the heavens. In a world where we command satellites, launch rockets, and map planets, comets arrive uninvited, on schedules older than humanity. To frame them as alien fleets is to reassert a kind of logic. If they are ships, then they are intentional. And if intentional, then they can be understood, resisted, or negotiated with. Random chance is far more unsettling, because it is impersonal. Astronomy, of course, offers no support for these fantasies. The 7 comets of 2025 follow trajectories consistent with icy nuclei of rock and dust, sublimating under the sun's heat. Their light curves, spectra, and tails all match natural bodies. 3. I divided by Atlas, though alien in origin, behaves like a comet, not a craft. No signals have been detected, no unnatural maneuvers observed. For scientists, the invasion hypothesis belongs to fiction, not physics. And yet, fiction has power. Invasion stories have always thrived in moments of social tension. During the Cold War, UFOs were framed as Soviet craft, their mystery reflecting geopolitical dread. In the 1930 seconds, Orson Welles' War of the Worlds broadcast exploited public unease with technology and looming war. In 2025, amid rising global instability, the comet swarm may become a canvas for the same fears. The invasion fantasy thrives because it translates cosmic coincidence into human drama. Perhaps that is the key. Comets make us feel small. To call them ships, fleets, intruders, is to pull them back into our scale, to make them less alien by making them too much like ourselves. In truth, they are neither omens nor armadas. They are frozen remnants of creation, wandering relics that the universe has, by chance or pattern, chosen to reveal together this year. But to many, that explanation will never satisfy. The fantasy of invasion is more compelling than the reality of coincidence. The human mind is not a machine built for statistics. It is an organ tuned for survival, honed across millennia in savannas and forests, where noticing patterns meant the difference between life and death. A rustle in the grass could be the wind or a predator. Those who erred on the side of caution, who assumed meaning where there might be none, lived longer. And so, evolution shaped us into pattern seekers, creatures who are deeply uncomfortable with coincidence. This is why the comet swarm unsettles. Rationally, we know coincidences must happen. If you flip a coin 1,000 times, improbable streaks will emerge. If you look at the sky long enough, rare alignments will occur. Yet when 7 comets appear together, alongside an interstellar visitor, instinct insists this cannot be chance. We see choreography, not randomness, intention, not accident. Psychologists call this apophenia, the tendency to perceive connections or meaningful patterns in unrelated things. It is the same impulse that makes us see faces in clouds, constellations in scattered stars, omens in comets. It is not foolishness, but inheritance. The first astronomers were pattern hunters, mapping the sky into predictable rhythms, discovering calendars, seasons, eclipses. Science itself was born from pattern recognition. But the same instinct that gave us astronomy also tempts us towards superstition. Comets have always been prime targets for apophenia. They are rare, dramatic, and arrive unpredictably. When they coincide with earthly events, plagues, wars, coronations, our brains leap to connect them. The comet becomes cause, the event becomes effect, and coincidence transforms into narrative. Once such stories are told, they take on lives of their own, reinforcing the association for centuries. Even today, in an age of statistical models and orbital mechanics, the same psychology persists. The swarm of 2025 does not simply look like coincidence. It feels like design, and feelings are powerful. They spread faster than facts, especially in a digital age where stories are currency. A photo of 3 comet tails glowing above a city skyline will ignite speculation more quickly than a dozen charts explaining orbital distributions. But there is another side to this psychology. Pattern seeking is not only the root of superstition, it is also the engine of discovery. If Newton had dismissed the falling apple as meaningless coincidence, gravity might have remained an unspoken mystery. If 19th-century astronomers had ignored Uranus's odd orbit as mere chance, Neptune might never have been found. Sometimes, suspicion of coincidence reveals hidden truths. The key is discipline, testing whether the pattern is real or illusion. Astronomy lives on this knife edge. The 7 comets and 3 I divided by Atlas may be nothing more than statistical noise, a random clustering in the great lottery of celestial mechanics, or they may hint at a deeper structure, subtle gravitational rhythms, galactic tides, or echoes of a distant stellar encounter. The challenge is to hold both possibilities at once, to acknowledge the pull of intuition while demanding the rigor of evidence. This duality is the human condition. We are beings who see faces in shadows and gods in the stars. We are also beings who build telescopes and equations, who can separate coincidence from causation. The comet swarm of 2025 tests both sides of us, the instinct to believe and the discipline to doubt. And in that tension lies the beauty of the moment. For whether the swarm is coincidence or pattern, omen or accident, it forces us to confront the very machinery of our minds. It reminds us that the universe is not written for our comfort. Sometimes it delivers stories too neat to be true and dares us to decide whether we will read them as myth or measure them as math. At last, we return from speculation to discipline, from omens, invasions, and apocalyptic fears to the quiet work of science, where numbers, not narratives, must decide. What, then, is the verdict? First, the orbits. Each of the 7 comets, Pan-STARRS, Swan, Stereo, Atlas K1, Atlas G3, Lemon, and Neat, has been measured with precision. Their paths are consistent with long-established celestial mechanics. They were nudged inward not by hidden forces in 2025, but by ancient gravitational encounters, slow processes unfolding over millions of years. Their simultaneity is remarkable, but not impossible. Coincidences, even extraordinary ones, are written into the mathematics of probability. Second, the interstellar visitor, 3 I divided by Atlas. Its hyperbolic orbit leaves no doubt. It comes from beyond, but its timing is almost certainly chance. No evidence suggests that it has influenced the others. Its trajectory is high-speed, indifferent, cutting through the solar system too quickly to play shepherd. Atlas is an outsider, yes, but one unconnected to the swarm except by the poetry of timing. Third, the Sunday solar maximum is shaping the drama. The synchronized bending and severing of comet tails, the auroras lighting skies far from the poles, the disruptions to satellites and power grids, these are the fingerprints of a restless star. If comets appear to dance in unison, it is because the solar wind whips them together, not because they are conspirators. The sun is the choreographer, not some unseen intelligence. The conclusion, then, is both humbling and liberating. The swarm is coincidence, amplified by solar activity. There is no alien fleet, no doomsday prophecy, no cosmic conspiracy. There is only the universe being itself, vast, indifferent, and occasionally astonishing in its ability to produce patterns that look like purpose. Yet to call it coincidence is not to diminish it. On the contrary, it makes the spectacle more extraordinary. For in a cosmos governed by cold laws, the appearance of 7 comets and 1 interstellar wanderer in the same season is a gift of perspective. It reminds us that we are small, that we live in a system alive with motion, that chance itself can weave beauty as intricate as design. Astronomy's task is to separate story from fact, but that does not mean stripping away wonder. The comets of 2025 are not messages to us, but they are invitations. Invitations to look up, to measure, to imagine, to feel again, the awe that drove our ancestors to map the stars. Science does not forbid meaning. It replaces imposed meaning with discovered truth, and the truth is astonishing enough. So, the verdict is clear. There is no conspiracy in the heavens. There is coincidence rare, dramatic, and unforgettable. The universe has no need for hidden hands to create beauty. It does so naturally, relentlessly, abundantly. And in that truth lies something deeper than omen or invasion. It lies the reminder that we are witnesses to a cosmos still full of mystery, that even when coincidence explains the pattern, wonder remains. The swarm will fade, the stranger will depart, but the lesson will endure. The sky does not need to mean in order to matter.